Sometimes a tiny misstep can change the entire course of events. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. Are you thinking of a particular instance?
Yeah, I was reading about the Battle of Balls Bluff during the Civil War. Have you heard of it?
Oh, really? Actually, I haven't. Tell me more.
Well, it's a lesser-known battle from 1861, but it had significant consequences. After the Union's defeat at Bull Run, they were desperate for a victory to boost morale.
Makes sense.
So they planned a simple reconnaissance mission across the Potomac River.
And I bet things didn't go as planned?
Not at all. So Colonel Charles Devens led some Union troops to scout Confederate positions near Leesburg, Virginia. But here's where it gets crazy. They mistook a line of trees for an enemy camp.
Wait, they thought trees were a Confederate camp? That's hard to believe.
I know, right? In the dark, with tension high, mistakes happen. Acting on this faulty intel, they decided to hold their position and called for reinforcements.
So who came to back them up?
Colonel Edward Baker, a close friend of President Lincoln. He was a politician and had limited combat experience.
Uh-oh.
He brought more troops but didn't have a clear understanding of the situation.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. He ordered his men into an exposed position on the bluffs overlooking the river. They were sitting ducks.
And the Confederates took advantage, right?
Absolutely. Confederate Colonel Nathan Shanks Evans saw the Union's mistake and prepared for an all-out assault.
Can't blame him. So the Union troops were essentially trapped?
Yes. Confederate sharpshooters hid in the woods and started picking them off. It was chaos. Then, Baker himself was killed in action. His death threw the Union forces into even greater disarray.
Without a leader and under fire, they must have panicked.
Totally. They had the Potomac River at their backs and the enemy in front. Some tried to escape by swimming across. Many drowned or were shot while trying to flee.
That's tragic. Do we know how many casualties there were?
Over 220 Union soldiers were killed, and more than 700 were captured. Confederate losses were much lighter, under 160 casualties.
That's a significant defeat for the Union, especially so early in the war.
It was a huge blow. The public was outraged, and there was political fallout in Washington.
I can imagine. What happened as a result?
Well, it led to the creation of the Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War, which was essentially Congress stepping in to investigate military failures.
Interesting.
General Charles Stone, who wasn't even present at the battle, was blamed and arrested without trial.
That seems unfair. Was he really responsible?
It's debatable. He was in overall command, but many factors contributed to the disaster. Some say he was made a scapegoat.
Politics can be brutal. Indeed. So what lessons did the Union take away from this?
Well, they learned the hard way about the importance of accurate intelligence and competent leadership.
Absolutely.
They realized that underestimating the enemy and poor communication could be catastrophic.
And how did the Confederates react?
For them, it was a morale booster. It reinforced their belief that they could defend against Union advances.
Makes sense. It's amazing how one battle can influence the war's trajectory.
Definitely. And what's interesting is that Colonel Baker was a sitting U.S. Senator at the time, the only one ever to die in combat.
Really? That's a remarkable piece of history.
It is. His death had a profound impact on Lincoln personally. It added to the political pressure on the Union leadership.
Do you think the Union leadership was perhaps overconfident?
Maybe. They were eager to turn the tide after Bull Run, and that might have clouded their judgment. Plus, the lack of experience played a role.
It's a classic case of how haste and poor planning can lead to disaster.
Exactly. It's like rushing into a test without studying. You hope for the best, but it often doesn't end well.
Good analogy. So, is the battlefield preserved today?
Yes, it is. The Balls Bluff Battlefield and National Cemetery is a historic site now.
That's great.
It's one of the smallest national cemeteries in the U.S.
I'd love to visit and pay my respects.
Me too. It serves as a reminder of the cost of war and the importance of learning from past mistakes.
Definitely. Diving into these lesser-known battles really gives us deeper insight into history.
Couldn't agree more. It's like peeling back layers to understand how individual events shaped the bigger picture.
And it shows that every decision, no matter how small, can have huge repercussions.
Exactly. It's a lesson in leadership and the importance of due diligence.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing this story. Really makes you think.
My pleasure. History is full of these fascinating stories waiting to be uncovered.
Can't wait to hear the next one.
Stay tuned. There's always more to explore.